Isn't it funny when people talk about inflation? They say, yeah, the car doesn't cost what it used to anymore. You know what I'm driving right now? I'm driving on a Hyundai Elantra. And you know what's got? This is nuts, man. So, first of all, we know cars are 10 times better engineered now than they used to be. I don't think anyone can debate that. Part two of this, we know also cars are 10 times safer now than they used to be. The cars crumple, not you, if that makes sense. A lot of it because of plastics, but it crumples so that you don't crumple when you get in an accident. That's just a fact, too. All right, so the cars are engineered better. They're made a hell of a lot more safe. Now, this is a Hyundai. This isn't anything fancy. And check this out. When I go around a curve, right, it gears me to stay on the track. It's crazy. And if you go, listen, you hear that right there? That's me going in the median, and it's saying, it's kind of just pulling me just a little bit back to the right. And listen. All right, we all saw me go on the road again. Hold on a sec. You ready? No, I'm not doing it. Maybe because let me see if you can hear this. Hear that? And it pulled me just a little bit to the left to stay in the lane. It's crazy, man. And then it's got automatic high beam that will, you kick on the automatic, the high beams will go low when you're when another car is coming, or even if it's any kind of light. You got all this technology, Bluetooth, you name it. How do you measure inflation when you factor in all the additional stuff you have on these vehicles relative to what you have in 1982 when you bought your first car? So my first car ever was a 1984 Toyota Circle. That's a Toyota Circle. A Toyota Terkel. I bought it off my mom for like $1,000. It was a beast of a vehicle. I love that car, man. I think it was two-door stick. But, it's just, it's a great car. Toyota made a freaking fierce vehicle. But, you can't buy a car for $1,000 now. Well, yeah, because that was, literally, I bought that in 1990 for $1,000, $500, $1,000 off my mom. But it didn't have Bluetooth. It didn't have listening. It didn't have that. It didn't have automatic sensors, and on top of that, you can't really see it here, but on this right here, the side rear view mirror, let's see if you can see it. You'll see, I guess not from coming up front, but you'll see like a light that shines if there's someone in your blind spot. No car had that back then. It's just, oh my goodness. So how do you measure cost of vehicles from 30, 40, 50 years ago to what they are today? Yeah, man, the average person can't afford a vehicle. That's a different car. It's a different car, man. Doesn't make sense. Same thing with homes. As I've said this a million times, yeah, man, the average cost of a house was blah, blah, blah. Dude, no one's living in the house that you grew up in. No one is. I got to tell you about my wife. There's 11 of them living in, 1,800 square foot, basically, I think 3-bed, 2-bath place. There's no family of 11A anymore, and there's certainly no family of 11 that's living in a 3-bed, 1,800 square foot, 2-bath place. That doesn't exist. Sure it does. But how do you say inflation, and you compare things that aren't comparable? The cars of the past and the cars of today are not the same vehicles. They're just not, man. So I don't know how you do that. I know how you do it. You're like, the dollar. But this is what drives me crazy about it. I was listening to my man Simon over at Uneducated Economist today. Big fan of his. And he was saying, it made a good point. He says, the increase in price of goods is not the result of inflation. I can't remember what he said, but he had a good point. I said, that's 100% right. But I say the increase in price of goods is not because of inflation. It's because of freaking... what the hell is going on with the supply chains, employment, and the whole freaking world being shut down. That's what's causing that. But that's not, and again, it's not because of dollar. We've been printing dollars like they're freaking going out of style for years and years and years. And yet we didn't have any inflation until we have supply chain issues. And the number one supply chain issue is what? Is energy. You have freaking make energy more expensive, you're going to have inflation. It has nothing to do with the dollars being printed. It's silly to think that way. I'm sorry, it is. If it's not turning over, if there's no velocity, there's no inflation. It's deflationary. Japan is the mantra for this. There's just no two ways around that. If people aren't spending their dollars, you're not going to have inflation regardless of how much the printing press of the Federal Reserve is on in the Treasury. It just doesn't matter. And what you got right now in the United States is they're printing, but they've been printing for years and years and years and years. They've been printing under Reagan, Vietnam under LBJ. I mean, they introduced Medicare simultaneously the Vietnam War, simultaneously the war on poverty. You want to talk about inflation? The 70s came around, and it was like, it's because of LBJ's and Nixon's printing. No, it wasn't. Had to do with supply chain issues, in this case, oil. And of course, we didn't know how to do hydraulic fracking, so we didn't know how to get cheap natural gas like we do now. But now with Sniffy Joe and these idiots in the European Union, putting limits on your ability to get fossil fuels, that's what's going to drive inflation. You got to get this right, because frankly, if you can't get this right, your argument is weak, and it's silly in my opinion. It's not worth debating, because it's just, I'm not going to say it's dumb, it's just ignorant. Again, ignorant means you don't know. So you got to get over this thing. It's going to be inflation because the federal government's printing money. What causes inflation, again, is the supply chain issues because of regulation. That is what causes inflation. That's why in socialist countries, it's not that they print money and have to cut off zeros like in Venezuela and Zimbabwe. What causes inflation is a lack of supply, because they shut down ingenuity, and they shut down people being able to create value in goods, because socialism is doomsday. And of course, socialism always leads to communism, and communism always leads to mass graves. All right, we'll see you.